What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to another gun guide. This is the series where I go into great detail with all the stats as well as some excellent attachment combinations for every gun in Modern Warfare 3. And in today's episode, we're going to be covering the brand new SMG that came with Season 3. This is the FJX Horus. And starting it off as always, let's have a look at our damage profile, and with this gun, we actually have 5 different damage ranges, and it's generally going to be a 5 to 7 shot kill to the body. It's also worth noting, right up close and personal, we have to hit at least 3 of our shots to the bonus zone, which includes the upper torso and the arms, in order to maintain a 5-shot kill, otherwise it will take you 6 shots to kill. And when it comes to headshots, in that second damage range, if you mix a headshot in with your upper torso shots, you can still maintain a 5-shot kill rather than 6. Next, let's have a look at our rate of fire, which is quite fast at 984 rounds per minute. And what this means for our time to kill potential is with a 5-shot kill, we're actually killing extremely fast at 244 milliseconds. This is the second fastest killing SMG up close. It's only beat out by the WSP Swarm. And honestly, even with a 6-shot kill, we've got a pretty solid time to kill potential here at 305 milliseconds. And at worst, if we get a 7-shot kill, this is 366 milliseconds, which is still great for an SMG at longer ranges. And speaking of ranges, our maximum damage range is just 10.2 meters, which isn't great. It is better than the WSP Swarm though, for instance, so that is one nice thing to know. However, it's more important to note that our 6-shot kill potential actually extends out to just over 40 meters, which is very impressive for an SMG. And surprisingly, this gun holds its own quite well in mid-ranges if you can handle the recoil, which we'll look at in a little bit. Also, it is worth noting our bullet velocity is 480 meters per second, which isn't great, but it should generally be fine, at least within the effective ranges of this gun. Also, I just want to have a quick look at hardcore game modes, and as we can see here, we actually have a roughly 20 meter 1-shot kill potential to the body, although in that second damage range, you have to hit the upper torso or arms for a 1-shot kill. And then it's also worth noting our 1-shot headshot potential is pretty solid at about 34 meters. Then let's have a look at Hipfire, and we've got an amazing Hipfire spread with this gun. Our minimum Hipfire spread is standard for SMGs, but our maximum is excellent at 5.2 degrees. And that means even while moving, this is going to be quite solid for Hipfire. So far it's been looking really good for this gun. However, let's now get into recoil, which is by far the biggest downside with the FJX Horus. As we can see here, your recoil is all over the place. It doesn't climb super high, like we don't have a crazy high magnitude of recoil, but it's bouncing around like crazy within that recoil plot. And as a result, I would highly recommend focusing heavily on horizontal recoil control, gun kick control, as well as firing aim stability with this gun if you want to try to get that under control. But even when doing that, there's only so much you can do with this gun, and this is always something that's just going to limit this gun as you start to stretch out the ranges. Now, let's move on to our handling stats, and our aim down sight speed is excellent at 170 milliseconds. Our sprint out time is also great at just 93 milliseconds for our standard sprint out time. This is now the fastest in the SMG category after the recent nerfs. And another thing that's fastest in the SMG category is our reload add time. With the default magazine, this is just 1.2 seconds, which is extremely fast. And this just leaves us with our mobility stats, so let's dive into that. And as we can see here, our base movement speed is above average for SMGs at 5.1 meters per second. Same thing with our sprint movement speed, a little bit above average for SMGs. And then finally, our aim walking speed is roughly average for SMGs. You could say it's slightly above average, but overall, the mobility is very solid with this gun. And with that is going to wrap it up for the base stats of the FJX Horus. And honestly, there aren't any unique attachments here that are interesting enough to be worth doing a full breakdown of. One thing to note though is certain underbarrel attachments and muzzles can be blocked off depending on the barrel that you're using, and that's something that you only see with a small handful of guns in this game. So with all of that out of the way, we can now move into some excellent attachment combinations I've got for you guys, and the first one I wanted to share is my quote-unquote accuracy build, and I put that in quotes because, like I said, there's only so much you can do when it comes to accuracy on this gun. But with this particular setup, we're using the Trebuchet Break, which is now available to be unlocked. We have the Martis Heavy Barrel, the Lopper LX Stock, the Lull 9M Grip, and then finally the 48-round magazine. And with this one, as we can see here, while there is still quite a bit of recoil, and I definitely wouldn't consider this to be like a highly accurate gun, when you put it side by side with the default recoil plot, you can see it cuts everything down nicely. It really reduces the magnitude of both vertical and horizontal recoil and all that bounciness. And it definitely makes it at least a little bit easier to stretch those ranges out to about 40 meters or so. Anything beyond 40 meters though, I probably won't be challenging that gunfight. And in order to get this level of accuracy, we did have to sacrifice our aim down sight speed to a degree. It's 234 milliseconds, which is still a great aim down sight speed. It's just quite a bit slower than the default for this gun. Our sprint out time was essentially unchanged, and our range value was also harmed by about 10%, but in my eyes that was definitely worth it to help out as much as possible with this recoil without using a JAK BFB muzzle, so we're not showing as an arrow for the enemy players. So there we go, that's the first setup I've got for you guys, and it's a nice versatile setup using this gun. Another quick note I wanted to point out here is I don't mind the iron sight on this gun, and especially with how much it bounces around, I actually find it hard to see what's going on with an optic, so I'm actually going to be using an iron sight for all of my setups. But with that out of the way, let's move into the second setup we got for you guys, and this is my stealth build. So with this one, we're using the Shadow Strike Suppressor. We're once again using that MWIII Heavy Barrel and the Lopper LX stock, combined with the LUL 9M grip, as well as the FTAC SP10 angled grip. So pretty similar to the previous build, we just swapped out a couple different attachments here. But with this one, you can see we've got a fairly accurate build on our hands. That's not that bad to control as far as something that has such a high fire rate. Our aim down sight speed, while we did hurt it a bit, it's still really good at 201 milliseconds. Our sprint out time is unchanged here, which is great. We managed to improve our aim walking speed a little bit, so we can strafe in gunfights a bit faster. And then, of course, we are staying off the radar, and I personally really like this particular build with the FJX Horus. However, I've got one last build to share for you guys, and this is my Hipfire and tac stance build, which is extremely effective with this gun. So with this one, we're once again using the MWIII Heavy Barrel, and the main reason for that is it allows us to use the Bruin Bastion angled grip, which helps us a lot with our tac stance. Then we're also using the Schlager ULO 66 laser, the Ripper light stock, and then finally the 48 round mag, so we can spray and pray a little bit with this. And as we can see here, our tac stance spread is nice and tight, and I'm not controlling recoil at all with these tests right here. It doesn't have that much recoil when in tac stance, especially when you compare to how much it has when you're aiming down sight. So that's pretty impressive if you want to get into tac stance, but this is also really effective at just hip firing. So you can run around hip firing like crazy and find a ton of success with this one. Our aim down sight speed is slowed down to 237 milliseconds, which is still a very solid aim down sight speed. And we're not even using that full aim down sight time when we're going into tac stance. Our sprint out time is improved very slightly, but not really by a noticeable margin. And also our aim walking speed is improved nicely at 3.4 meters per second, which you're actually going to gain more of an advantage there when you're in tac stance versus fully aiming down sight. So this is actually quite an effective method of using the FJX Horus. For many guns, hipfire and tac stance is just a fun gimmick and a different way to play, but in this case, it's actually one of the better ways to play with this gun. And with that, that is going to wrap it up today's gun guide on the brand new FJX Horus. As for my thoughts on this gun, I really like it. I actually like how they balanced it, where it's really powerful in a lot of ways, but that recoil is pretty brutal, and it kind of balances things out. It balances all those upsides, at least to a degree. Now, I think there may be an argument that it is a little too powerful in its current state, especially with its solid time to kill potential reaching out to 40 meters. But like I said, the recoil does keep it in check nicely, so not everybody's going to be able to pick this up and do super well with it. And therefore, at least currently, I'm quite happy with this gun in the game at the moment. But of course, these are just my opinions, and I'd love to know what you guys think about this gun in those comments down below. And also, if you guys have missed any of the previous gun guides, I will have a link to the playlist in the description of the video. If you enjoyed this one, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.